Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Adam's Music Box. Now, when Frank Sinatra himself tells you that you wrote the best love song of the last 50 years, you should believe it because that's what Frank Sinatra said about the song Something. It's a Beatles song, of course, but it was written by George Harrison. I consider it a George Harrison song, and George Harrison to me was the finest writer in the Beatles. And the reasons are quite self-evident to me. He had the most interesting and quintessential, fundamental sense of chordal harmony of any of the Beatles. That's not to take away from the other songwriters. Ringo's a great one too. Actually, some of Ringo's biggest hits were, written by George, interestingly. Think It Don't Come Easy, think Photograph. And when you listen, you can hear those great chord changes that are quintessentially George. But obviously, it's not to take away from Lennon and McCartney, a wonderful songwriting team who then became wonderful individual songwriters. But there is something about George, oh God, that's a pun, that really, really was special. And if he only ever wrote one song and then retired or went on the road with Monty Python because he was a huge, huge fan, as you should be, this song would really be it. The chords, the chord changes, the middle eight, and how it relates back to the stanzas, if you will, to the original bars. I mean, the whole thing is just absolutely a perfectly crafted song. The music matches the lyrics. The arrangement on the original is fantastic, but it also has that element that all truly great songs must have. It should be able to be performed by any performer in any style and still work. And this song absolutely passes that test. You could play it in a string quartet and it works. Not many pop songs do. You could do it as a slow down crooning ballad, the way that Frank Sinatra did, and it worked. You could sing it as a soul ballad, and it would absolutely work. You could take it a bit up tempo and rock it out a bit, and it would still work. And there are examples of all of that, and it really, really would work. In fact, George Harrison thought that it should be a Joe Cocker song, which it ended up being, but he thought he should just give it to Joe and not even do it on a Beatles album. And so, one, that shows the humility that really made George Harrison a super decent person to the core. And it also shows that he was aware, at least at a musical level, of just how versatile and therefore how wonderful this song really is. Everyone will have their own favorite Beatles song because they were first and foremost songwriters more than performers, even though they changed the history of popular music performance. I still think of them as a songwriters band first and foremost. George Harrison was just bursting with material. His great All Things Must Pass album, just so much material that you know he was sort of either holding back or not necessarily allowed to get past the other two guys. But on this song, which is frankly on the Beatles' finest album, which I think there's a pretty wide consensus that Abbey Road is their best album, the song is just wonderful, and it is the kind of song where if you hate the rock and roll with which the Beatles are derived, you'll still love the song. If you don't like love songs, you'll still love the song. It's just one of those songs that's so pure and so perfect. And who is anyone to argue with Frank Sinatra, who, of course, did a wonderful version of it himself? That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time. Take care.